So today we have a 2010 Chevy Silverado. It's a 1500 extended cab, and it's here for a complaint of the check engine light, or MIL, on. No drivability symptoms, so I'm going to guess that it's probably got an EVAP problem. So let's have a look at it with the scanner. We'll do a network scan and see what kind of codes come up. So I've got the ignition on, engine not running. We're going to boot up the scanner here. It should auto ID. I've scanned this before, so I'm loading the vehicle from history as well. Okay, oh, it's got a 4.8 in it. It's rare. So let's do a code scan and a pre-scan. Oh, look at that. Evaporative emission system large leak detected. Seems to be a trend. Now with the warmer weather, I think we're starting to see more EVAP system failures, because as soon as it goes above freezing, the system can run EVAP monitors, and if they fail, then the check engine light comes on and fault codes get set. During the winter months, sometimes the EVAP monitors won't run. And of course, if they don't run, they don't fail. Okay, so it scanned 15 controllers. And looks like that's the, oh, we've got some TPMS codes. Probably the sensors are defective. So, other than the EVAP, P0455, there's no other codes stored in this vehicle. So the first thing I want to do is, I've already looked at the gas cap and it looks clean and tight, but we're going to go into engine and functional tests. The purge solenoid physically functions. That doesn't mean it doesn't leak or something. And let's do the vent solenoid, see if we can hear that clicking. Yeah, so that's physically clicking too, but again, it doesn't mean it's not leaking. So we're going to start this vehicle and do a purge and seal test. In a previous video on a Mazda, that's one of the tests I was trying to do, but it didn't. The scanner or the vehicle did not support the test. So I'm going to go start this vehicle and we'll set this up. So here's the instructions for the purge and seal. It says the purge controls the purge solenoid and closes the vent. Seal commands the purge solenoid to 0 and keeps the vent solenoid closed. Fuel level should be 15 to 85%. Test will not function if the onboard EVAP diagnostic is running. So we're going to go in and start this up. And sometimes I'll build a custom data list, but we don't necessarily have to. We want to look at fuel tank pressure in inches of water, and we'll look at the purge solenoid and the vent solenoid. So now the fuel tank pressure is down here. So first of all, we're going to command the purge solenoid on, and we should see the fuel tank pressure drop very quickly. You can see it dropping. Oh, it dropped and then it went right back up again. So either the fuel tank pressure sensor is not reading, or there is a gross leak in this system, because it won't even build a vacuum. But I can hear the engine changing, so the purge solenoid is working. Well, I wonder if it's got a rusted fuel pump sender at the top of the tank. So maybe we'll smoke test this thing, raise it on the hoist, smoke test it, and have a look. So I got the smoke machine running and connected to the vent line, or sorry, the purge line. This is the vent solenoid, and the actual filter for the vent solenoid is up on top of the transmission. I can see it right, you can see the filter right there. I had to turn the vent on because it's normally open like the Mazda one was, and it seems to be sealed now. I've had it running for several minutes and I don't see any smoke, so that's bothering me. I should have checked the purge solenoid to make sure it was actually connected. Maybe we'll smoke test this purge line. Although it's stainless steel, it shouldn't be leaking, shouldn't be rusted out, but if it's disconnected up at the actual engine, that would kind of suck. I was fully expecting to see smoke around the top of the tank up here, but I don't see any sign of it. Well, we'll connect the smoke machine to the purge line. So the purge solenoid is located right here. You can see it right in here, behind this harness. You can hear it clicking. I got it commanded on at 20% right now. And the line runs down and appears to be connected. So I'm going to take this line off and see if we get vacuum on this line when the engine is running. Like right now, if it was running, there should be vacuum felt here. I'll put a vacuum gauge on it. So I got vacuum on the vacuum gauge with the vacuum line hooked up to it. As you can see if I pull it off. So either that line on the way down to the charcoal canister is leaking, which I really don't think so, but I'm going to check the line. Or the pressure sensor on top of the tank is not registering a change in vacuum. So I've connected my vacuum gauge to the line down here, and it's showing the same thing it was up at top, 20 inches of vacuum with the purge solenoid on. Let's see what happens when I command it off. Let's see. Commanded it off. And it slowly leaks off vacuum, but I think my fitting is leaking right in here. So I'm going to try and find a better fitting to make sure that that line's not leaking. So I've commanded it on to 30%. I've got a better fitting in here now. And we've got 20 inches of vacuum at the canister. So I've got a little brass fitting in there now that they could disconnect, quick connect fitting. I'm going to command it off now and see if it holds vacuum. So it's at 0%, and you can see it's still holding vacuum. So the line is good, which bothers me now. That tells me that either the pressure sensor on the tank is not responding to the pressure change, or we actually do have a gross leak. But I should have seen smoke. Maybe I'll smoke test it at the filler neck instead. Well, when I pulled the hose off the canister for the smoke machine, there was a considerable amount of residual pressure that had built up in the tank. I imagine because the fuel in the tank is warming up from being brought in from outside. So that tells me that there's no gross leak in it, but I'm still going to smoke test the filler pipe. So now I have the smoke machine running and connected to the fuel filler pipe, as you can see. And we're going to let it run for a few minutes and see if we can see any obvious leaks at the top of the tank. Even though there was pressure in the tank, I'm starting to lean towards a faulty pressure sensor, not registering a pressure change. Well, we'll let it run for a few minutes. So the smoke machine's been running for about 10 minutes now, and there's no smoke coming out anywhere. Here's what that fuel pump looks like on the top. This is a used one that I replaced because the filler or the outlet pipe was rusted off. This is the pressure sensor. That sits up on top of the tank somewhat like this. This fitting faces towards the drive shaft. This is the fuel outlet line, this is the a vent line, and this is a canister vent line. This is the pressure sensor here. To be able to get it off the vehicle while it's still on the gas tank is nearly impossible. The nipple will just typically break off. I might try and salvage this one off this used one, see how hard it is to get off. So I managed to get the sensor out of this old fuel pump housing, But that was pretty easy because I was on the bench and I was able to work at both sides of it. Normally the sensor will just break off. This little nipple here will break right off. And I suspect if I try to reach up there and pry that out of there from on top of the gas tank, it's just going to break the nipple off. But then again, I could just push the piece of plastic inside the tank, because it's really not going to hurt anything if it's floating around in the tank. So we'll see if we can get it out of there without taking the tank down. Well, that was rather short-lived. I reached up there with the, I'm going to see if I can get a picture of this, with the compressed air, and blew off the top of the tank, and then the fuel outlet pipe started leaking. You can see that line running out is wet. So it's going to need a fuel pump anyways. I kind of figured it was leaking. But I think the pressure sensor has failed, but it's all irrelevant now because we've got to change the whole fuel pump assembly anyways. So we have a new Delphi fuel pump here. We're going to replace the entire pump assembly. And I was contemplating with removing the fuel tank or taking the box off. Now, given the fact that this thing is almost full, about 3/4 of a tank of gas, I think I'm going to opt for removing the box. So, removing the box, there are 8 bolts, 4 on each side, that you can get at from the bottom with an impact gun. There's 1 ground wire, 3 retaining screws on the filler pipe that have to be removed because the filler pipe's going to stay with the gas tank, obviously, and a couple of harnesses that need to be unplugged at the back here. Then we're going to use the hoist to lift the box up and off of the truck and leave the truck right on the ground. So we'll get that all set up. So there's the box raised as high as I can go on this hoist. By picking it up by the upper rails, I'll show you what I used for homemade lifting devices for my hoist. This will only work if you can drive the truck forward or push the truck forward enough to get your hoist over top of the back of the box. The other option would be to turn the truck around, and that option would allow you to actually drive the truck forward now. So now I have about 2 feet to work in here, and you can see that fuel pump is definitely leaking now at that line coming out. So we're going to try and service it just working from here. You can get on your knees here and work fairly conveniently. The challenge is going to be getting that piece of rusty pipe out of that nylon line. So there's the original fuel pump out. It was leaking gasoline around this outlet line here. It's rusty, but the pressure sensor is what had actually failed, causing the EVAP system to not register a drop in pressure when the purge was occurring. It wasn't actually leaking like it said, a gross leak, but I was going to go and try and change this. It sits up on top of the tank like so. That sensor is not going to come out of there without breaking, and as soon as I blew compressed air up here to try to get rid of some of the dirt, it started leaking gasoline from this area here. So I took the left rear wheel off the vehicle and lowered the suspension just to give myself a little bit more space, and I've got this stainless steel bowl sitting in here just to keep the fumes from filling the shop, but I also hold it down and blow around the O-ring to keep some stuff from falling inside. So we're going to reinstall the new pump, or install the new pump, and connect all the lines, and I think I'll run a purge and seal test before I even drop the tank down just to make sure. Okay, so I haven't lowered the box yet, but the vehicle is running. I'm going to try a purge and seal test like we did earlier and see if it will show a vacuum in the tank now. So I'm loading the test. Here's the vent solenoid, here's the pressure, here's the purge solenoid. So command it to 20%, and you can see it's building a vacuum on the tank beautifully now. I've got a cap over top of the filler pipe. Let it go to about 8 inches of water and then hit seal. And it should maintain vacuum. It should not bleed off at any significant rate. Now it looks like it's bleeding off, but this is actually very, very little. seems to be holding vacuum fine now. So that pressure sensor on top of the tank was defective, but in the process of trying to get at it, as soon as I blew compressed air on top of the fuel tank, the outlet pipe started leaking. Interestingly, this new Delphi pump is all stainless steel, so it'll last longer than the rest of the truck. We're going to just clear the codes out of this thing, and should be good to go. Put the box back on. Thanks for watching. In case you're interested, this is what I use to lift the box. I made it out of a piece of old door channel, a piece of channel iron like that, about 6 inches long, and a piece of 1/2 inch ready rod. If I made them again, I'd make these ready rods about 7 inches or 8 inches long. A little longer won't hurt, because sometimes the truck is not level because of the rear suspension, and you need to have longer ones on the front. But that's what I use to lift the box. They fit under the box lip like so, and they can't slide off. So that's it. That's all.